China is shutting down completely. They're banning their citizens from exiting the country. They're even seizing and cutting up their passports and all travel documents that let them go to different countries. You can see what's already happening even within the borders of China. People are fleeing Shanghai. It's a mass exodus. People scale buildings and they run and they line up and they try to get out of the clutches and grasps of the unbelievable tyrannical zero COVID control policies that are happening there. Where do you think they want to go next? And it all comes from this very worrying document that they've just released. It echoes an all too recent past. Hitler's Germany, Imperial Japan, Pol Pot's Cambodia, Stalin's Soviet Union. China just isn't letting people leave. And I'm not talking about not letting people leave their houses due to lockdown. I'm talking about leaving the country. But why? This video is brought to you by NordVPN. When I lived in China for 10 years, I used a VPN every single day because without one, I'd never be able to see anything online since a lot of stuff is blocked by the Great Firewall of China. But even here in the US, I use a VPN every day as well. And the VPN that I choose is NordVPN. It's the easiest to use. What it does is it actually encrypts all of your information so that no one, including your internet service provider, can see what you're doing online. So it keeps things safe, like your credit card or any personal information you put online. Think about it, if you're joining someone else's Wi-Fi network or the public internet, you need to make sure that you're on a VPN to make sure that your data is encrypted and safe, and going through that tunnel to make sure that no one can see it. Go to nordvpn.com/Laowinner and you will get a massive discount off of a 2-year plan. But not only that, you'll be able to try the new anti-malware feature for free, and also you'll get a risk-free money-back guarantee. Not only will you support the channel, but you're gonna get a fantastic deal on my favorite VPN. China's National Immigration Administration, they announced new regulations to strictly limit unnecessary departure. The immigration bodies and border control officers, they got ordered to stop unnecessary departure from China, and that includes traveling or even just visiting family. Officially though, the Chinese government is using the excuse of a zero COVID policy as a way of keeping people from traveling abroad and bringing COVID back to China. And you might even believe that. I mean, what with people being welded into their houses and police drones watching and yelling at people to not sing and close their windows, and testing lettuce and animals for COVID. Yeah, the Chinese government's paranoid and an absolute disaster at figuring out how to impress the top leadership with zero COVID numbers. But it'll only take you about 5 minutes of research and a very basic knowledge of the Chinese government to disprove this very quickly. Nah, this isn't about COVID. You see, Chinese citizens are now reporting that those who hate the party and the state are not allowed to fly out. And those departing with malicious intent had their travel documents destroyed. Leaving the country with malicious intent. When they start using words like this, it's pretty clear what they're doing. But I think I actually found out why this is all happening. And it's all down to talking to the people, hearing their stories, and figuring it out from there. Because the people I spoke to, understandably wishing to remain anonymous, told me that the truth is a lot more sinister than virus prevention. Here's the deal. I started hearing about this whole travel ban not allowing Chinese people to leave the country about 2 years ago. Someone I knew was trying to fly out of China for a short trip just to go be with her European fiance as he was visiting his own relatives in Europe. But something in his family happened and he had to stay longer, so why not pop over to Europe and meet the future in-laws? After all, she had a visa in her passport. There was a problem though. Her passport was about to expire. Not a big deal, just get another one. Nope. Passports were not being renewed unless you had a student visa abroad or some sort of job in another country. Well, I guess we can blame some extreme COVID measures for that one, but then it got weird. more and more people reached out to me that were running into this problem. And they did, in fact, have student visas and jobs abroad. But then it got even weirder. There were instances of companies and employers in China asking people to turn in their travel documents, i.e. their passports. At first, I just thought this was isolated to a province called Hunan, which is the birthplace of Chairman Mao, and it's also a place known for rolling out very harsh Chinese government policy for testing purposes. Trust me, I spent a lot of time there, and that place tends to test out the harshest policies that Beijing declares. But nope, it started happening elsewhere. In fact, it was a lead up to this document that I just told you about. It is necessary to strictly implement strict entry and exit policies, strictly restrict non-essential exit activities of Chinese citizens. You see, this document is just pages and pages of Chinese government jargon, but if you read between the lines, you'll realize what this actually is. China is not allowing people to leave the country anymore. This is not something that normal countries do. In fact, I contacted people working in embassies, and one type of call that they keep getting is people asking, why can't I leave China? You see, these people have visas and their passports to go to work, to live, to visit, and they can't leave the country to do so. They're stuck. And why? Well, the honest truth is that China isn't doing too well. It may be hard to wade through the absolute utopian nonsense propaganda that China puts out about quality of life or GDP numbers or how happy everyone is, but the truth is, people are not happy. They are seeing what happens when everything seems fine on the surface, but then the dictator decides to do something that actually has real life implications on their lives. Locked up, put into camps, children taken away from them. They start to finally understand how the Uyghurs in Xinjiang feel, who are currently being genocided in Western China by the Chinese government, torn from their families and eliminated from the demographic. It's not just discontent driving these people to want to leave, though. People want to flee China, and it's provable. People are leaving en masse. Look at the applications for asylum since Xi Jinping took over. In China, now if you have the means, you leave. If you think a conflict is coming, you don't want your kids, or anyone you care about for that matter, to be in that conflict situation. People with the means leave China. This doesn't happen in other countries like the US, but masses of Chinese people are leaving China. And the government cares about this. In fact, they care about this so deeply that they're stopping people from doing so. You see, this hurts the economy. It hurts the workforce. It hurts soldier conscription for potential war. It hurts morale. It hurts the propaganda drive. It hurts in every single way. And the biggest way it hurts is the brain drain. The people who run the weapon systems or the tech, the people that China needs most, they will leave given the opportunity. And powerful people could leave with state secrets. It really shows you how the Chinese government shoves nationalism down people's throats, but the proof is in the pudding. They leave when given the chance. After all, what are you fighting for? Are you fighting for a government that locks you down and starves you to death? Are you fighting for a government that uses absolutely insane measures, like disinfectant machines and actual flamethrowers to get rid of the virus, setting buildings and people on fire, and then fire trucks can't get through the barricades that the government set up? Are you fighting for a government that doesn't allow you to express any discontent to the point that its freedom is dropped to near North Korea levels? What are you fighting for? The capital flight is insane, meaning the money is pouring out of the country. Investments outflow by the billions, and Chinese are fleeing and buying houses or literally anything that they can keep as an asset. As Chinese have told us on the ground that the financial system in China is simply too fragile to trust at the moment. We've spoken to people that know people in the banking sector, and there is a mad rush amongst the rich to get out of China. Canada seems like a popular destination these days, but you really see it happening everywhere. Guess what is now happening to the people that we spoke to who were trying to leave? In fact, they had everything ready. They can't. All of the connections in the world, all of the money in the world, and now you can't leave. This was something that was very simple for the rich people to do before all of this. If you had enough money, you can bribe all the people in the government to get past all the capital flight restrictions, hop on a plane and buy a $10 million mansion in the USA or Canada. It's not so easy now. This law will most likely restrict anyone from leaving, unless they have state approval. We're talking intelligence, or people working on behalf of the Chinese state. You see, they're using COVID prevention as a way to save face. I mean, if you use a virus as an excuse for people not being able to leave, then you don't have to hide the numbers of how many people actually did leave. Because in reality, it's staggering how many Chinese people want to get their families and money out. The truth is, I run into them all the time in the US. They're everywhere, and I empathize with their stories, and I'm glad they were able to get out. But the truth is that the Chinese government wouldn't have to block people from leaving if the government could deliver on its promises and make good on that guarantee of that good way of life and security that they have promised their citizens. If it wasn't better elsewhere, they wouldn't have to leave. It really shows you how fragile the Chinese state actually is. Why do you think people leave? Sure, some of it's for opportunity, but many people just leave because of how fickle China is. The Chinese government goes after the rich, and they hurt and restrict the poor. Xi Jinping's China is simply not a good place to be. And the truth is that people are leaving, and the only thing the government can do is to ban people at the highest level from doing so. A Chinese person online perhaps asked it best when he asked, "Are we going back to the national seclusion policy of the Qing dynasty?" You see, this is a time where China completely closed off from the world. And guess what? He's right. China blocking its citizens from leaving the country, that's illegal. The UN, the United Nations, which China is a part of, recognizes the text of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which states, everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. And it's followed with, everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and return to his country. I do want to ask something though. This question is for the people who are still investing in China and giving money this genocidal authoritarian regime. You know, the people who justify their investments and collusions with this maniacal dictatorship, wishing, hoping, and praying that the Chinese government is just one more step away from realizing that its scary dark path that they've taken is wrong and that they are so very close to opening up to the world. Yeah, I want to ask those people, are you stupid or are you just evil?